birthday to you.
Ding! Paint, paint, paint. Oh, good job. She's still.
This story may be deeply disturbing. It is a story of love, warning signs, and silence. The kind of silence that kills. What happened to Iris Rita Alfera is not easy to hear, but it must be told. On a quiet summer afternoon in Newcastle, Pennsylvania, a 911 call shattered the stillness. She fell. "I think she's not breathing," said a trembling voice on the other end. Moments later, paramedics rushed into a home on Electric Street. Inside, lying motionless on the floor, was an 18-month-old baby girl, eyes blank, skin pale, chest barely rising. Her name was Iris. Just hours earlier, she had been laughing, singing, dancing to Bluey and Miss Rachel like any other toddler. Her favorite purple dress still clung to her tiny frame. But now she was clinging to life by a thread. Doctors would later uncover something far more terrifying than an accident. Her brain was swelling. Her blood held deadly levels of acetone. Her retinas were hemorrhaging. Her body, bruised, burned, poisoned, told a story no toddler could ever speak. And when investigators looked closer, the truth unraveled. Iris hadn't simply fallen. She had been hunted, slowly, deliberately, by someone trusted to protect her. Her cries were overlooked, her mother's pleas dismissed, and the system that should have saved her turned away. Today I'm going to tell you about the murder of Iris Rita Alfera, a child who loved, learned, and laughed until one person's obsession and a justice system's indifference turned her final months into a horror story. What follows is one of the most haunting child abuse cases you've likely never heard of. But you should, because knowing her name might help save the next. Let's begin with who Iris truly was. Iris Rita Alfera was born on December 2nd, 2021 in Butler, Pennsylvania. And from the moment she arrived, she changed everything. Her mother, Emily Alfera, often said that Iris was the light of her world. But to anyone who met her, Iris wasn't just a light. She was sunshine itself. She had big, searching eyes that sparkled with curiosity, a laugh that danced through the room like wind chimes. Her cheeks were round and rosy, her smile pure and unfiltered. She was the kind of child whose very presence made you pause, made you hope again. At 6 months old, she was already crawling. By her first birthday, she was walking, signing basic words and speaking her first phrases. She was bright, incredibly bright. She loved Miss Rachel videos and could mimic sounds, signs, and gestures with uncanny accuracy. Her favorite characters were Moana and Bluey. When music played, Iris would sway back and forth, arms in the air, eyes lit up with joy. She adored animals. The family cat often curled up beside her crib, and she'd giggle endlessly chasing the dog across the living room floor. Her toys were not just things to play with. They were companions in her ever-expanding imagination. Her mother would dress her in matching swimsuits, tiny summer dresses, and cozy pajamas with stars on them. Iris always looked like she had stepped out of a storybook, the kind you never want to end. On Mother's Day 2023, Emily posted a photo with Iris. Beneath it, a caption that now reads like a memorial. "The greatest gift I could have ever dreamed of. Your smiling face. I love you so much, Iris Rita. You make me so proud to be your mom." Her grandparents, Candace and Frank, were equally smitten. Frank once joked with Emily, saying, "I thought I loved you, but Iris, I love her even more." Emily would roll her eyes, but she knew what he meant. Iris had transformed them all. She was only 18 months old, but in that time, she had already given more joy, more wonder, more meaning than most do in a lifetime. And that's what makes what happened to her not just tragic, but unbearable. Because the world didn't lose just a baby. It lost Iris. And it all began with what seemed like a simple custody arrangement. Emily Alfera was a devoted mother, young, kind, and utterly in love with her daughter. She lived with her parents, Candace and Frank, in a warm, stable home where Iris was surrounded by laughter, safety, and unconditional love. Life was not without its challenges, but Iris was thriving. Her father, Bailey Jacoby, was no longer in a relationship with Emily, but they made a conscious effort to co-parent peacefully. By all outward appearances, they succeeded. They shared photos, videos, updates. Emily was accommodating with visitations. If Bailey wanted extra time with Iris, she almost always said yes. But behind this surface of cooperation was a hidden variable. Bailey's new girlfriend, Alicia Owens, a 20-year-old nursing student. At first, Alicia seemed polite and harmless. She lived with Bailey and was present during his scheduled visitations with Iris. Then, slowly, the energy shifted. Emily began to notice tension. Alicia grew colder. She didn't like when Bailey communicated with Emily, even when it was just about Iris. Over time, what seemed like simple jealousy deepened into something more dangerous. According to Iris's grandparents, Alicia became fixated. Resentment turned into obsession, and then into something far more disturbing, hatred toward a child. Still, nothing seemed outwardly wrong enough to sound alarm bells. No bruises, no reports, just an uneasiness, a growing sense that something wasn't right. Then came February 2023. That's when Alicia began conducting dark, haunting online searches. She typed things like, poisonous household items for babies. Can sunscreen poison a 1-year-old? What happens if my child eats nail polish? She even researched, what happens if a child swallows a button battery? To the untrained eye, these may seem like strange curiosities. But for those paying attention, it was a roadmap, a trail of intent. This wasn't a one-time search. It was a pattern, a quiet escalation. And no one, not the courts, not social workers, not even Bailey, seemed to notice. In April, Iris returned from a weekend visit to her father's house. Emily changed her diaper and froze. Inside, she found something that didn't belong. A tiny jelly-like orb, a water bead, then more. 20 in total, along with a metal screw and 3 button batteries. Emily rushed her daughter to UPMC Children's Hospital in Pittsburgh. For days, Iris passed foreign objects, things no toddler could have accidentally ingested. The doctors were alarmed. Emily was horrified. She pleaded with the court to intervene, to stop the visits. But the court did not suspend visitation. Instead, the judge ordered co-parenting classes. Child Protective Services came and went. They filled out a form, took a glance around both homes, and left. The case was closed, and so, Iris, who had narrowly survived one act of unthinkable harm, was sent back into the same environment that nearly killed her. A place where, behind the door, someone was watching her, planning, waiting. What happened next would not be a near miss, it would be final. June 25th, 2023. It was a Sunday in Newcastle, Pennsylvania, the kind of summer day that should have ended with bedtime stories and sticky popsicle fingers. But for 18-month-old Iris Alfera, it would be the last day she ever saw the sun. That morning, she was with her father, Bailey Jacoby, and his girlfriend, Alicia Owens. The plan was simple. Bailey would run to the store to get a few things before returning Iris to her mother. Iris was supposed to be home with Emily by late afternoon, but she never made it back. While Bailey stood in line at the checkout counter, his phone rang. On the other end was Alicia, panicked, breathless. "She fell," she said. "I think she fell off the bed. She's not responding." He dropped everything and raced home. When he arrived, paramedics were already there. Iris was lying on the floor, motionless, unresponsive, eyes glassy and distant. Her tiny chest barely moved. She was rushed first to Jameson Hospital in Newcastle, then transferred to UPMC Children's Hospital in Pittsburgh. What doctors found there would shatter even the most experienced staff. Her brain was dangerously swollen. There was internal bleeding in both retinas, a classic sign of shaken baby syndrome. Her organs were shutting down. And then came the blood test, a lethal level of acetone, a chemical found in nail polish remover and other toxic household products. It doesn't get there by accident. Bailey and Alicia claimed that Iris had seemed fine that morning, maybe a little fussy, maybe she vomited once or twice. But the doctors knew better. These were not subtle injuries, they were catastrophic. Iris's body told the truth. She had suffered intense trauma, consistent with being shaken violently or struck, and had been poisoned with a chemical that eats away at the body from within. For 4 days, Iris fought for her life. Machines beeped softly around her. Her mother never left her side. Her grandparents whispered prayers, stroked her tiny hands, begged the universe for one more miracle. But on June 29th, 2023, At exactly 1:52 p.m., Iris Rita Alfera was pronounced dead. She never got to go home, never got to dance to Bluey again, never got to grow up. And the question that echoed in every hallway of that hospital, in every tear-soaked room, was, why was she sent back? The moment Iris was pronounced dead, the hospital contacted authorities. No one needed to be told this was not an accident. Her body, battered, poisoned, broken, was all the evidence they needed to open a criminal investigation. Detectives from the Newcastle Police Department began their work almost immediately. They interviewed both Bailey Jacoby and Alicia Owens. Their stories didn't match. Alicia claimed she had been sitting on the bed feeding Iris when her own body suddenly cramped up. She said Iris fell, just 6 inches, from the edge of a thin mattress onto a carpeted floor. She insisted she tried CPR before calling 911. But the medical evidence said otherwise. Iris's injuries, retinal hemorrhaging, severe brain swelling, organ failure, were consistent with high-velocity trauma, the kind you'd see in a car crash. Not from a fall, not from 6 inches of carpet. And then detectives looked at Alicia's phone. What they found was chilling. Deleted searches, all recovered through forensic tools, revealed months of dark curiosity turned into calculated intent. Search after search, all centered around poisoning children, inflicting harm, and most disturbingly, how to pass a lie detector test. The cause of death was confirmed, acute acetone poisoning leading to multi-organ failure. Coupled with internal injuries linked to shaken baby syndrome, there was no longer any room for doubt. Still, the investigation moved slowly. Weeks passed, then months. The community began to stir. Iris's Angels, a grassroots group formed by neighbors and friends, launched campaigns and vigils. They organized fundraisers, awareness walks, and placed a massive billboard in town that read, "Justice for Little Iris." Purple ribbons, Iris's favorite color, began appearing on streetlights and school fences. The grief was real, but so was the outrage. Why had no one acted after the April incident? After the water beads, the batteries, the screw? Why had the judge refused to suspend visitation? Why had Child Protective Services closed the case after a 5-minute check? In December 2023, nearly 6 months after Iris's death, her family issued a heartbreaking public message. 170 days without hearing her laughter. It's unbearable. Then, finally, on January 10, 2024, authorities arrested Alicia Owens. She was charged with 9 felony counts, including 3 counts of first-degree murder, 4 counts of aggravated assault of a child, and 2 counts of endangering the welfare of a child. If convicted, she faces life in prison without parole. At every court appearance, witnesses said the same thing. Alicia remained stone-faced. No tears, no remorse, just silence. The trial has since been delayed due to changes in her defense team. As of today, a new date has not been announced, but one thing is clear. The wheels of justice may have started to turn, but far too late for Iris. In the weeks that followed Iris's death, silence was not an option. The people of Newcastle, a quiet town not used to headlines, began to speak out, loudly, publicly, together. They organized under a single name, Iris's Angels. What began as a grief-stricken family lighting candles in their driveway soon became a community-wide movement. Rallies were held, fundraisers sprang up. A billboard appeared near Mill Street, massive, impossible to ignore, with 4 bold words, "Justice for Baby Iris." Purple ribbons were tied to mailboxes, fences, and storefronts. Children wore them to school. Teachers told Iris's story in classrooms, not as a lesson in fear, but as a plea for vigilance. Donuts were handed out near the billboard reveal, a small comfort for a big wound, and every passerby who stopped took home a ribbon. Many left in tears. Emily, Iris's mother, refused to grieve quietly. She began speaking at public events. She called on lawmakers to remember her daughter's name every day of their careers. She urged judges, social workers, and politicians to stop prioritizing procedure over protection. "This isn't just a tragedy," she said. "It's a system that chose paperwork over a little girl's life." Her voice broke, but her resolve did not. The community rallied behind her. Over $17,000 was raised through the Iris's Angels Fund. not just for memorials, but for a legacy. They launched plans for a scholarship in Iris's name, a 5K awareness run, a charity initiative called Iris's Closets, which would provide school supplies and essentials for children in crisis. But perhaps the most powerful call came from Iris's grandfather, Frank. Child Services dropped the ball. They should have acted in April. They should have protected her. They didn't. As Christmas came and went, the first without Iris, the family posted a message that cut deep. The monsters continue to hide behind their cameras, 170 days without her laughter. It's unbearable. And still, there is no trial date, no closure, just the echo of a child's name, carried by a town determined to make sure she is never forgotten. Because what happened to Iris Alfera was more than a crime, it was a failure of law, of care, of humanity. And Newcastle made a choice. They would not look away. If a toddler swallows 20 water beads, a screw, and 3 button batteries in one weekend, if someone in the home is researching how to poison a child, if a mother begs a judge to stop visitation after a medical emergency, and if the system still sends the child back, then the system is not broken, it is refusing to work. Iris Rita Alfera never got the chance to say, "I love you, Mommy," in full sentences. She never went to preschool, never made her first best friend, never got to grow into the girl she was so clearly becoming. And yet, her short life is forcing an entire state, maybe an entire country, to confront what we've been willing to overlook. This isn't just a case file. This isn't a tragic accident. This was preventable. And if nothing changes, it will happen again. So I ask you, what would you do if you saw warning signs? Would you speak up, push harder, demand more? Iris's mother is fighting for reform. Her grandparents are turning their grief into action. A town once known for its quiet streets is now known for its purple ribbons and relentless hope. But the truth is, change won't come unless we all remember her name. So, remember it. Iris Rita Alfera. Share her story. Say it out loud. Say it for the children who can't, for the parents who begged and weren't heard, for the futures stolen before they began. And if you're watching this today, I ask just one thing. Don't let Iris be a forgotten headline. Let her be the reason the next child lives.